Hey, what's going on, C3? It is Pastor Caleb.
And I'm Dr. Leslie.
We are excited. Tonight, we have the honor and privilege to premiere to you our C3 Black Love Edition. We had the honor in interviewing 5 couples that attend here at C3, and they've been married ranging from 6 years all the way up to 54 years of marriage. And I'm telling you, the insight and the wisdom that you're going to get tonight, you're going to laugh, you're going to cry. It's going to be a phenomenal time watching this. So listen, they're going to introduce themselves and tell you how long they've been married, and we're going to jump right into the questions. So enjoy your Valentine's Day with our Black Love C3 edition.
I'm Kashama, this is TJ, and we've been married a total of 6 years.
I'm Shakisha White.
I'm Vander L. White III.
And this year we're coming up on
20 years.
20 years.
I'm Marcus.
And Courtney.
And we've been married for
7 years.
7 years.
I'm William Sproul Jr.
I'm Bernice C. Sproul.
We've been married 53 years. It'll be 54 years this year.
All right, I'm Nicole Francisco Bailey, and this is
Phil Bailey.
And we've been married
for
6 years.
Cliche, we met at church.
It's that solid foundation, that solid rock. But yeah, we met in church. You want to go ahead and tell his story?
At church, I thought he was his brother because I went to high school with his brother. And I walked up to him and I was like, "Oh, you're not the person who I thought you were." And that started a conversation. And we had a mutual friend, and I asked his mutual friend of ours, is he single?
She thought I was somebody else. That's what first grabbed her attention. Like, I wasn't already fine enough, you know. But yeah,
I thought it was his brother, but he wasn't.
But yeah, a mutual friend after we met in church, and mutual friend, and then one thing led to another, just hanging out. And she was singing, I was playing drums, so hey, church.
We met through a mutual friend, and the first time I met Shakisha, I was over at that mutual friend's house. I got invited to dinner to meet her, and she had a daughter. That was Ayana, which is my stepdaughter now. But she was really crawling around. She was maybe a couple months old, 6 months, 7 months, something like that. And the coworker was watching her at the time while Shakisha was in school. So when she came back, I asked Keisha, was there anything that she needed to tell me? Because Ayana was so attached to me and just was all over me, kind of. So that's how we first met.
Then we met again.
We met again maybe 6 months later.
Yeah, at a cookout. And yeah, all right, I will, because I won't forget. So anyway, we have a debate of who asked. So basically, the trash needed to be taken out at the cookout, and so I think that he said he would take out the trash, and I said I would go with him. He said it was the other way around, and that I was taking out the trash, and he said he'd go with me. Needless to say, the trash was taken out, and we went together. What would you say?
It was the first one, huh?
It was the first way? Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, the trash was taken out. We both went, and then we're just talking.
Well, you talked about my car because you didn't like my car.
Yeah, but we were still getting to know each other in that moment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And so
But you had that look in your eye, though.
I did. I had that. He had the look too. Anyway, so after we took the trash out, we came back in. I was a little aggressive, and I had reached out to Kim, and I was like, "Your friend's kind of cute. See if you can get his number." So needless to say, she got his number, and we talked the next day.
Yeah,
or did we talk that day?
We talked that day.
That evening, and we haven't stopped talking since. So, yeah.
Well, we met at Old Dominion University. It was August the 12th, 2006. We were both RAs. So we kind of worked closely together during that program. And even before regular classes started. And that's kind of when the connection started.
Now, my version is that I worked with his mother, and she kept talking about build this, build that, build that, you know. So one day she got sick, and so I had to take her home. And so when I took her home, She said, "This is Bill." I said, "I know him because we went to the same church." So,
And my version is when she came to bring her home, that was a different reason. But my version is we grew up in the same city, born the same year, went to the same church all our lives, went to the same school, high school and college together, and didn't know each other because the city was so big. But one day after church, my mother, as she talked about Bernice all the time, she finally put boys together and introduced them. And she looked at me, she said, "I know you." I said, "I know you too." So that's how we first met. When she brought my mother home, she brought her sister around out. That was a different time.
How did we meet? You tell your story.
I was with a couple of guys I play flag football with, and one of them was an actual mutual acquaintance between myself and Nicole. They went to college together. He and I were on the same team together, and on that flag team. It was a poker night, and he was just talking to, unbeknownst to me, he was talking to her and her friend, and we both were single at the time, and one thing led to another, turned into a kind of like a blind date setup type thing. And we met one night out in DC. I was meeting with her, and he was meeting with another friend, and just kind of hit it off ever since.
Hey, well, let me tell this part of the story. It was a mutual college acquaintance, and I had just finished like planning a big gala and endowment fundraiser for the school. I was dog tired, didn't want to go to DC, and my friend was like, "We have to go out. You need to celebrate. You have been working so hard." And I was like, "I don't want to." And so she and the friend had kind of talked behind the scenes, and he was like, "You got to bring Nicole up because I'm 98% sure she's going to hit it off with this guy." And he knows I wasn't really like dating people like that because I'm super picky. And then so I went up to DC, and the rest is history.
He helped me unpack my baggage. And I'm a lot to deal with, and anybody who can deal with me and still be here, he's a keeper.
I got a few, since I've been growing my beard out during the corona, and you can see the grays coming out. I would like to say that was, courtesy of her. But how I knew it was love, it's because it wasn't one specific moment. It was like a series of events and just me coming back for more. Like she said, even when we have our arguments, our disagreements, or when things wasn't always on the up or the up, but the fact that I chose to stay in love, but love is an action word. So just a combination of us experiencing life together and me coming back for more and realizing that I'm choosing, to love this woman. So I would say a combination of just things over time. That's how I do.
I think I'll start. I think I knew it was love because I just didn't want to be without him. Like I felt like I always wanted him in my space, in my presence. And then I felt some type of way when he wasn't. Like at the time when we first met 21 years ago, he was into a game, like playing this game. Well, do you remember what it was that you played? You used to go over there and
It was
play?
a video game.
Yeah, some video game. Anyway, he would like not want to come over because he was playing a game. So I'm like, oh, wait a minute, hold on, pump your brakes. I need a little quality time. Again, we were just getting to know each other. And so I'm that one who like loves, that's my love language. But anyway, quality time. And so I really wanted it. I wanted him. And, I just really loved the way we clicked, our personalities. We just had so much in common. And then we had some differences, but we overcame those. But I said all that to say, I just felt like I didn't want to be without him.
Kind of the same thing for me. She had that look in her eye, and she did a lot of kissing in the beginning. So I didn't want to be around my friends as much, and I didn't want to go out anymore. It's kind of always around her. So that's kind of when I knew it was love. And actually 6 months in, I kind of prayed on it and, asked the Lord, is this my wife? What am I doing? And he was like, yes, this is your wife. So I went forward from there.
I would say that because we met in college, we had a lot of growing to do. So while there was an instant attraction, it was not a wholly instant attraction. So we, again, had some growing to do and went through a lot of ups and downs in those early years. One thing is that Marcus and I both came from homes that were like our parents were either divorced or not together, and so with that we kind of realize now that we're older, it's like we had no idea what love was. So going through those trials and times, and as we really grew together, we had got to a point, for me, we had got to a point where I think both of us had really laid everything out on the table. I had some growing up to do. He had some growing up to do. God really took us through some individual journeys at one point. And so we were able to come back together and really recognize and appreciate that growth. And I'm glad the Lord helped us to keep us together and to stay with each other through that, because it really has been a beautiful journey. But it was like right before we decided to get married where it really was like, okay, this is love, but like the real love, like mature love. So that's what I would say.
And we've both kind of said, in reflection at different points, that we kind of have two different lives. Like we were together in the previous life when we were just young and doing whatever. And then once we kind of both grew up, like life has a way of making you grow up. And that's kind of how we grew to love each other. Like when she was down, like I just wanted to help her. I just was there. We've always been there for each other. And I think it's actually in the vows, like when one is, when one is strong or when the other one is not strong. You support each other and you help each other out. And we did that numerous times before we got married.
Before we even got married, really.
So we were just like, well, by the time we got married, we were like, man, we've already kind of been through some stuff already. So let's just make things right and just do things the right way. But I said that to say, like, our previous life, I realized, I wanted to be with Courtney. I was like, this is who I want to be with. After we grew up and kind of became a different person, it came another point again where I was like, this is really the person I want to be with. Like, I want to be there for her, and I don't think I can be happy without her. So long story short, we just grew to love each other at some point.
Let me see.
While she's thinking, I'll tell you my version. I knew it was love when she told me it was. That's how it was, because I was on the outs. I'd broken up with another girl, and I didn't want to have nothing to do with any women. And she got me to go around the house one Sunday after church, and of course I knew her brother too. And he and I got drafted at the same time, so he got called first to go in the Army, and they had a party for him. And she invited me to the party, and her mother and I just hit it off. And after that,
and my sister,
and her little sister that thought I was her boyfriend. But after that, she came to our house that day that she brought my mother home with her sister, and sit down and told me we were going together. So she made me know it was love then. When I really knew that it was, that we had a date, we went to the movies, and then we saw each other off and on for a while I was in college. I used to ride my bicycle around the house. I guess when I really knew it was love was when they stole my bicycle off her porch. And she fussed with her brother to make him take me home because I had to walk all the way from her house. But anyway, on the way, when I got home, I couldn't wait to call her back. And from then on, we were just on the phone with Gaga Goo Goo all the time.
And there was another girl involved who was very persistent that he was hers and nobody else's. So she called him one night, and said, I'm coming over because you're mine. You're not Bernice's, you're mine. And so he says, well, I'm calling my girlfriend right now, and then we will see. And, so it was on from then on.
How did we know it was love? I feel like the first weekend we met, we were very like adamant about, hey, let's not play games. Like we live 4 hours away. If this is going to work, we need to like be serious about it and state our intentions. And I feel like we did. And I feel like I knew that he was the one that weekend. I went home and I told my mom, I was like, it's over. It's a wrap. But I feel like it took like 2 weeks. Who said I love you first?
So I don't look at love the same way. For me, love is more a journey and not a destination. So you can't. I think that's a mistake a lot of people make, and that's how we end up with all these divorces and splits and nasty breakups and things like that. Is because people think that they've arrived somewhere and they just are supposed to ride that euphoria out. For me, it's kind of a continual journey, a kind of a thing that's always evolving and changing and growing. And so I kind of knew she was the one for me, though. I decided this is the person I wanted to hitch my wagon to. Probably in those first couple of weeks, we spent a lot of time. I don't know if she remembers, but we spent hours of phone time just talking, and not talking nasty or anything like that, just talking about life and how we perceive things. And that would lead to 3, 4 o'clock in the morning phone calls, knowing that we'd have to get up and go. Well, I had to get up and go to work at like 7. So I was getting 3 or 4 hours of sleep. But most of that time was clearly well spent because it turned out like this, and we're still growing. I think with each experience, as time passes, the love grows stronger, and love is something you have to continually work on and work at. So that's a roundabout way of answering your question, I think.
No, that's good. I'm going to add one more thing. So I agree. Love is a choice. I had already known what I was looking for in a husband way before I met him. So I kept a journal. I said I knew the 10 things I wanted in the person that was ideally fashioned for me. I had kind of like, I'm a big person about intention setting and kind of, putting in your mind, vision boarding and everything. And I knew when I met him pretty much within the first couple of days that he was, from the intuition that I had, what I had been looking for. So it wasn't just euphoria. I mean, it was like, I don't know, I felt like it was a little bit of predestined, like something resonated with me. Like sometimes when I make decisions, like it's because I know it like in my gut. And I didn't get just I'm dating this guy feeling from him. I got a feeling in my gut that's like, oh, this is different.
It might have started with the fact that one of the first things I told her was I'm an expletive. So we started there, and maybe that's me keeping 100 for her, but it worked out.
Yeah, I appreciated your brutal honesty, saying you were but I also remember you telling me in that next day conversation that you were a serial monogamist. And like you didn't play around. Like when you're committed to somebody, you're super committed. And y'all hadn't even known him for a whole 24 hours yet. And I was like, oh, it resonates. Beep, 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 beep.
What aggravates me with TJ is everything is a question and answer. And he does politics for a living, kind of, sort of. So everything is a debate with him. Instead of just giving a clear-cut answer, he wants a whole dissertation. That's annoying for me.
I just like to get clarity, full understand. I'm very inquisitive. Let me see. What irks me about Kashama Demetra Austin? Man, she is sassy. Like, her comebacks, her tone, her tempo, what she says, it's like, man, sometimes I be forgetting, like, that's my wife. I'm like, who are you talking to? Like, if you catch me on an off day, I respond. But thank God for the fruits of the spirit, patience, love, kindness. And he has equipped me with that to be better.
Indeed. I'm very sassy. Very sassy.
Yeah, so I would say her tongue and her sassiness sometimes.
Yeah, that's kind of hard. I mean, I am not easily aggravated. You got to do an awful lot to aggravate me. So, I don't really think I have. And I'm trying to think, even if I go back some, I mean, I hate when I go to bed first. I mean, he goes to bed before me. Don't say that.
That's not nice.
Okay, he can snore, but I mean, it's not a big deal. It's okay. But I just make sure I get to bed first. Or,
You used to get mad at my tone, honey. Like, it's not what I said, it's how I said it.
yeah, this is true. Yeah, but I don't think I was aggravated. But yeah, it definitely
A long
matters.
time ago you were.
It definitely matters how the person says it, not what they say. So yeah. Yeah, but we worked out. That's something we worked on. We worked that out.
Well, I used to get upset about, cooking not being done as frequently, so on and so forth. Or a lot of girls being over because of her organization.
Yeah.
She has a mentorship program, which took a lot of time. But, over the years, I kind of got used to it and just got over it, got over myself, and now we're in a good space. So it takes time to get there.
Yeah.
So it's funny because one of the things that aggravates me the most is actually also something that I appreciate just in different times. And I think it's a general thing, but it's just that man brain and just the logical solution focused thinking that kind of kicks in sometimes. And because Marcus is very introspective and he is very much a thinker, and I am very emotional and very in touch with that side of things. So there's times often where, it's like, I just need you to, I don't need you to draw me a diagram. I don't need you to help me figure this out and, pull up the paperwork and we're going to get through this. And well, if you just had this chart, this would be better. And I'm like, no, I just want to cry and I just want you to hold me right now. So that's funny. But then, like I said, there are times where that does come in handy where as much as I hate to admit it, I'm like, okay, draw your little diagram and it's going to make everything be okay. So, but that is one thing. And just our personality differences and growing to learn how to have those work for each other instead of us kind of like letting it build a wedge in between us. Like, what are my strengths? What are your strengths? So sometimes we can get stuck on that. So,
for me, it's it's based out of fear. Sometimes I just feel like she's overly fearful, like a little scaredy cat. Even though she does what she has to do, it's just sometimes I think she should have more confidence in her abilities. Even with driving, for example, she's a good driver, but she just
I don't like to drive.
yeah, and she just she'll intimidate herself. Even when she's able to really do stuff and just speaking up for herself. But one of the great things about us, it's not really, she doesn't really aggravate me.
Thanks.
Well, the whole process of being in love and loving someone comes when that I've learned, at least after a period of time, that the things you think bother you aren't really important. So there's nothing that she does that bothers me in that sense. I mean, there's some little idiosyncrasies things, but they aren't important in the long run. So I would say there's nothing that gets under my skin. I mean, no.
My thing is my husband, when you have a conversation with him and he gets to the point where he really gets into it, I mean, this man can go. So I used to try to keep up with him, argue with, and then it came to me, you need to shut up and let him finish and then come back to him later when you're both calm. And that seems to work.
But they weren't arguments.
Disagreement.
Yeah, we didn't have arguments.
I'm perfect. What aggravates you about me?
I don't know if we have enough time.
Okay.
But again, that brutal honesty. The one thing is, I guess everything that happens has an explanation. Everything that happens. Hey, babe, you left the door open. Oh, well, because I was thinking about the fact that I was going to go back out the door and all that stuff instead of this, just eat it.
But all of that's true. What? I was thinking about that.
The refrigerator door is open. Oh, well, I was going to go back in there. So
Clearly, I wasn't going to leave it open all night.
What do I do?
Okay, first of all, you do not know how to take off your socks and put them in the dirty clothes. Wherever he is sitting, he leaves the socks there. And I mean, not just for a couple minutes, an hour. The next day I come downstairs, the socks are still there. You mean to tell me you walked past the socks and couldn't put them up in the laundry basket? And it's not just socks.
I mean, I'm heavy set and big boned, so I don't like bending over to pick stuff up.
Well, then you better use your toe and lift it up and get it with your hand. Come on now, let's be innovative. Okay. All right, now you put the toilet paper on the wrong way. Do you remember that day?
It's over.
Well, okay, I get that now. But like I used to put it under because I like to pull it from under. You know what I mean? And so then one day I put the toilet paper roll in, and I went out, and I came back to use the bathroom. It was flipped the other way, so I flipped it the other way. And then when I came back to use the bathroom,
it's cascading over.
Well,
over.
It's always over now.
Yes, that's right.
I don't know. I'm gonna let you start. What would you say a rough patch?
Had a few. But one in particular, not to get too specific, but she may remember it. But me, I can be very jealous, and there's some things I have to work on with my pride and everything. So boundaries in her, and just learning to share her with her male friends. I'm very protective of my baby, and I just had to get used to that and grow and work on some things in myself. And that's would you agree or no? Or you got another better example?
No, that's a good example. And I think that rough patch, if that's what you want to call it, I think it was coming to an understanding of how to set boundaries with my male friends, because to me they're just friends. I don't think my husband should be jealous, but to me they were just friends. So to have to actually go to the male friends and be like, hey, my husband's not comfortable with it, let me know too. That goes back to your other question, that I really love this guy, that I actually could have the conversation and not be afraid of losing a friend behind my husband, because my husband's a friend. So,
and those were moments that got us through, that kind of just grew us stronger. I had to learn in myself to humble myself, my pride, get out my feelings. I can get in my feelings a lot. So I had to learn a lot in order for us to be. What was the top of the question again?
See, this is what I do.
Oh, rough patch that we got on. Okay, and now we can look back and laugh about it. But through that moment, it helped me to not hold things in. I hold things in a lot, and through that discussion, through that moment, I learned through Kashama to get what's out. If don't hold it in. If you got something on your mind, if you're in your feelings, express that, communicate, share that. So let's get through it. Versus me waiting and holding in weeks, and then all of a sudden,
I have no clue
it's tension in the house and stuff. And like, right now in my mind, I'm thinking something else. But I think that was one of the rough patches, we went through, and something that I learned from was how to communicate openly and address it immediately rather than sit on it and wait.
I have a rough patch.
Yeah, but I do think there was a moment, probably like between year 5 and 7 of being married, where the devil was just busy. I mean, just trying to try us. Like it would be little things that would get on our nerves. And we would like constantly try to control the other or always have something to say. And then, we just kind of had to take a step back and like realize who it was that was really trying to attack us and, try to pin us up against each other. And we just had to come together and pray. And we're like, wait a minute, So anytime we notice, and it's been a while since we noticed it, but anytime we notice like tension's high, we just go to prayer. Like we pray for each other all the time, but like we really like interceded and just we just the devil doesn't have any authority in this house, and so we really had to call him out on his stuff. And no,
we also just watch what we put in the atmosphere.
That's right.
Like we spoke what we wanted.
Right.
Like if I felt she wasn't doing certain things, she felt like I wasn't doing certain things, we would find the positives within the situation to kind of move forward. So
yeah, definitely changing what
speaking and thinking what you want.
Yep.
And things got better.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely speaking life.
Well, we've had, a few being together for so long, but how we overcome our rough patches, honestly, each and every time we end up just, I guess, first after realizing that there's a problem, we just talk it out. Whatever it is, we, just flesh it out. It might take more than one day. It might take a week to like get through the conversation. We have to remember where we left off and stuff, but we literally just communicate what our issues are and figure out the middle ground, and just wanting to make it work.
I would say more specifically, one thing that really always stands out to me, and I count it as a part of our testimony when I talk about our relationship or recount, is a time where God allowed us to be separated. And again, this was like the year before we got married. And so a lot of things were going on, and I personally realized that I had kind of lost myself in the relationship, and so God had a work to do in both of us. And through a situation, all things work together. He allowed us to have a separation, and during that time, my life changed. His life changed. There was pruning, there was growth, there was tears, there was revelation. And instead of us running from that, we leaned into it. And we were able to appreciate what the Lord had done in both of us. And so it was a rough time, but it was also a beautiful time. It's kind of like that you get beauty for ashes, like going through that period. And so I'm thankful for it now on the other side. And when I see how, because that led to, when you asked us, how do we know it was love? That's what led to that, being able to get through that and grow through that and come out on the other side and honor and recognize what the Lord had done in both of us, and then come together as like new creatures. So we got through and we're here.
It sounds cliche, but communication really is key. Like you really have to communicate.
we only had one argument, fight, if you will, in our entire marriage. It was one Saturday morning at Andrews Air Force Base in 1972. I remember it clearly. My wife woke me up, because that was the only day I get to sleep in. She woke me up and asked me, well, I didn't ask me, told me to go and help her friend, her neighbor, move. Because she was moving from the house next to us, the building next to us, to someplace else. So, okay, I get up and go. Now, being like I said, I'll say later and tell you about what love is all about, I think about her first. So I left the car there in case she needed to go somewhere. And I rode with one of the neighbors. Well, we finished putting the things up, and we sit down and they cooked us some hamburger and a hot dog, and we had some refreshment. We were playing big whist. And the phone rings, and she was on there, and she was irate. What are you doing? Where are you? I said, where am I? You called the number, so you know where I am. But what's up? She said, I'm here waiting. I need to go someplace. And you got the car, and I can't move. I said, you look out the window, the car's right outside the window. I left it there in case you had to go somewhere. She said, well, still, you're just staying there too long. I said, okay. Anyway, I asked Ernest to bring me home. And I went home, and man, we just had it out. We had it out. And she went to swing at me, and I pushed at her, and she fell on the bed and fell across the bed on the floor. And, that was that. I didn't hit her or anything. Just pushed her to keep from hitting me. But she fell on the floor. Then she got up. She said, I'm leaving. I'm leaving, and I'm taking our son. I'm going to catch the bus. And I said, oh, no, you're not. I'm going to take you. So she packed the bags, and I took her all the way from Maryland near Washington, D.C. to home in Norfolk, Virginia. Dropped her off at the door. I didn't go in and say hello to nobody. And I just turned around and come on back home. Well, make a long story short, about a week later, she calls me up like nothing happened. Hey, honey, I'm ready to come home. I'm ready to come home. I ain't quite ready for you to come in. Well, I got some things that I got to get. I can bring them to you. No, you can't. Anyway, the long and short is I went and got her. She came back. We talked that thing over. And she apologized. I apologized. And from that moment on.
But let me tell you about a funny thing that happened when we first got married. When we first got married, we had very little money. And so every after we paid the rent, we had 50 cents left. So the 50 cents sat there for about 2 weeks, right? So this friend of mine said, "Come on with me. I'm going to the post office. Post office was about 3 miles away, so we had to walk." So I took the 50 cents with me. So then I got to the post office. She says, "Well, I'm gonna go to the store and I'm gonna get this." And she was just getting things, and I felt bad, so I got this candy bar. So I on the way back, I ate, she and I ate my candy bar. So when I got home, and he, says, "Where's the 50 cents? Need some gas." I said, "Well, I got 25 cents left." He said, "What am I gonna do with 25 cents worth of gas?" And it was on. he finally went outside and just walked around, and then he came back and apologized. So that was the funniest thing.
Well, I mean, I think it was an extended rough patch for us, and it was probably much more personal for me, but also another sign that this was kind of how love is a journey and you grow together. A few months before we were supposed to get married, my father got really sick and ill, and ultimately he passed away. So he died at the end of July. We were getting married in October. We had initially planned for our lives to be separate our first year because the employment opportunities here are not the same as they are in DC. My connections are in DC, whatnot. But with that life-altering experience, there was nothing really tying me down to that area anymore. And it was just kind of a natural point of transition. And so we went through that at that time. But also I moved down here kind of like on a hope and a prayer. So when I moved, I didn't have a job. And that status didn't change for several months. And at first it might sound cool. And, we were financially, we were fine. It was never about financial pressures, but something about you as an adult, and not to sound misogynistic, but something about being a man, and your wife's the one that gets up and goes to work, and you're at home and you're spinning your wheels. And at that time I'm studying for the bar, which I hadn't done for maybe 7 or 8 years at that point. Because remember, I graduated in 2008.
Yeah, he was licensed in Maryland and DC, but not Virginia.
Right. So I was trying to open up some stuff and opportunities, but I knew I had to pass the bar. So there was that pressure, the pressure of not doing anything substantive at the house, other than, taking care of the house and things like that. So I think that long period of unemployment really tested a very young marriage. We have random arguments about stuff that was in hindsight insignificant and didn't mean a whole heck of a lot. But I think through it all, we knew, as we told each other from the get-go, we were in this for the long haul. And so that communication piece, which was key, is what kind of drew us closer together. Talking these things out, working through those rough patches is what made our marriage a whole lot stronger, and why we're together to this day, or part of the reason why we're together to this day.
Yeah, I'm like, that's not it.
But yeah, that's not it. But it's a big piece. It's a huge part of that foundation.
I think it brought us closer. What'd you say?
We agree. All right, yeah, I think
out
so.
here working out together, riding bikes, hitting trails, cooking.
It didn't, it
It
didn't.
ain't the best, but
I tried the air fryer was the best thing almost in sliced bread. I am the reigning C3 cook-off champ. I mean, yeah, I mean, don't get it
How many years ago was
twisted.
that?
It don't matter.
Yeah.
Until I am dethroned, I am currently the champ. So
We'll let you have that. Yeah.
whatever that is. What was the question again? Get sidetracked.
Pandemic.
Closer. Yes. It actually brought us closer because, like you said, we started doing, because I was working from home and she wasn't. So, but she was limited, and we communicated more. We found activities to do. We started getting into bike riding. We hit the Richmond Capitol Trail. Yeah. We went bike riding in Charlottesville. So now that's becoming a thing, something for us to build memories on. So I think we capitalized on the pandemic. Now there are some, setbacks, but overall, I think it brought us closer to communicate and find some healthy outlets to enjoy that we can take advantage of, because outside was closed. So what are some things that we can do to kind of burn off this energy, this cabin fever? And then working from home, oh my God, it's like my environment was the same. Like I work at home, then I come home and be at home, and it's like I didn't have that change of environment, that outlet, to get up, get dressed, get fresh, and go to work, come back, regroup, so it was great to just get outdoors and find some other activities to do, spend time with the grandkids. We exercise more, doing some home workouts, got me a heavy bag. So yeah, we just making lemonade out of this thing, and I think, it kind of helped us. Yep.
I mean, when that hit, we're like 19 years in, so we kind of know each other. We're used to being around each other a lot and doing things together, so it just increased family time, together time.
Right.
We were disobedient to the quarantine. We went out different places. I would surprise her. She likes going places and doing things. So I would just say, hey, get in the car, we're going. And we'd be riding, and she'd be like, all right, where we going? You're wasting gas. So then we'll get there and walk around and talk and just do things together.
Yeah. I would say that it just allowed us to be still. It allowed me to be still, which then allowed us to do more things. Again, we are always doing things. That's just who we are. But it allowed us to do a little bit more, especially during that first time. I'm sorry, honey. Especially during that first time. When it first hit and you couldn't go anywhere. Like, we were really just like in the house playing games, just spending time, quality time and enjoying each other.
I got a lot of things done as far as like the honey-do list. And if you're not married yet, that's something that you have to do. Once you get married, you're going to have a lot of duties. But I got a lot of things done, and there's some extra things too. So I got some bonus points.
You did.
I would say initially, I think we kind of were surprised that we recognized some areas where the communication, or we had some miscommunication going on. It wasn't terrible, but we had kind of gotten to, so that was the start of our 7th year together, counting down to our 7-year anniversary. And I think we realized it was a lot of, okay, so we get up, go to work, we're parents, we have 2 children. Yeah, we really were. And we didn't even realize that we had kind of got there. And so again, in the beginning, when we were first together, all of that kind of came out. And so it was just talking through that and getting through that. But again, going back to that communication, and one of the things I am thankful that we will do, we were able to talk through that. And then after that, we actually very much enjoyed ourselves. So
it was rough at first, but once we communicated. And one thing is kind of funny. We say, like, we have definitely over the years, one or both of us has gone to bed upset, but we both still get into bed. We just, and until we get to the point where it's like, all right, ready to talk about this. All right, let's do it. And after that, yeah, we had a great summer. It was a good time. We don't cross the line. I'm not gonna say I've never cursed, but I've never like cursed her out. She's never cursed me out. We don't call each other names. We don't say things to hurt. We don't say hurtful things. We might say things out of anger, but we've never really crossed that line with each other.
No, I agree. And I think with the separation and stuff, it's like, no, we may have, okay, I'm sitting over here on the side of the couch and you sitting over there. But when you get in that bed and you used to having that person with you and that, yeah, I might be angry with you right now, but come on over here and give me a hug, whatever. It really kind of is like that. So it's like, I may still have something that I want to talk to you about, but I know that I can bring that to the table. But I also don't want to allow it to go so far that I'm going to let that put a wedge in between us. So
the pandemic, did it change our marriage a lot?
Sure, a little bit. Again, not to sound misogynistic or anything like that, but some would see there were some changing of roles. But to be serious, I was already kind of putting myself out there because of my job. I'm already exposed to the public, and so I kind of wanted my family to be safer. So instead of Nicole normally going to get groceries or going out and making store runs, I did almost all of it for especially the first few months when we were all still very nervous and scared and concerned. I decided that since I'm already being exposed when I have to go to work, I'll just go ahead and go to the store and do those things. So I did all the grocery shopping and the picking up of random stuff.
And how did I feel doing it for 5 years prior? How you like it?
It's the worst.
It was great for me. I feel like not that the pandemic was great, but we did experience, I think, some good things from the pandemic. I don't think it was bad. I feel like we had more family time. We had more time to spend with our son, Lil Phil. He loved it. I feel like their relationship got even stronger. I mean, because now they just play Spider-Man and they have a lot of daddy-son time all day. Your work schedule's a lot more flex now, so we can take care of a lot of things that we couldn't before. And I feel like the time it's served us well. And I mean, I personally have been able to kind of get a little reprieve from all the grocery shopping and all the errand running, making Phil's lunch every morning. Now he does all this stuff. It's good.
So great.
So post-pandemic, will that change, or are y'all keeping the roles, or is it going to be 50-50?
Post-pandemic, I feel like it's not going to change a whole lot. Hey, you always told me when we got married, you said, hey, it's 2000, what was it, 14? And he always says, it's 2020, it's 2021. We don't believe in gender roles.
Sure.
No?
Sure.
We don't believe in that. Get in the kitchen. Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna start with answering this question because I learned this myself, and that is set your own relationship goals and don't set your goals to somebody else's relationship, because you don't know what they had to go through in order to have those smiles on those pictures. And I want to be my own trendsetter in my relationship, kind of set our own tone. I don't want to be like nobody else. I just want to be us, because trying to be like other people, it don't work at all.
Yeah.
So be true to you and your Team Austin. Musically Bond. Yeah, we just gonna stay right there. When you try to venture out and be like everybody else, it don't work. And then that's what causes conflicts. That's just my answer. What you think? I
mostly agree. You like it. I love it. If it works for you guys, like I'm not the one, to be giving advice or anything, but I just share my experience and what I learned. But yeah, I concur. It's what works best for you guys. And secondly, I would say forgiveness. It's one of the fruits, 7 fruits of the spirit. It's for a reason. Like, it ain't meekness, kindness, love, forgiveness. God knew what he was doing, when he made that. And but yeah, forgiveness, because we're not perfect, through this journey, this everlasting love, this, right. It ain't cliche adjective you can think of, but forgiveness, because you're going to make mistakes, and we're both learning, we're both growing, and we're trying to maneuver through this thing called life together, and you're going to run into some hiccups. So you have to have some skills. You have to have a solid foundation in order to get through that. And I think forgiveness is one that really will be special for those young couples and old couples, because I'm pretty sure, you know, other people that you're going to talk to have been together longer than 6 years. So I know they forgave their spouse a few times. What Jesus say? Forgive what, 7 times 7, 77 times 7, something like that. So it's a lot. So forgiveness and will be, you know, I guess suggestion.
Yeah.
Not
So
suggestion.
So set your own goal,
right?
And forgiveness. That's how
Learn both of those.
And so I think the one advice that I would give is, well, first, you got to put him first. You have to put him first. And both of you do. It's not an option. It's not, and I'm going to be honest, and this is, you know, where we were originally at first, when we first got married, you know, we both kind of were raised in the church, but then, you know, you backslide and you're into the world. But, and there was a point in our marriage when I was going to church by myself. Just, you know, again, he was going, you know, every so often, but not like I wanted. And I would just nag him. And I know that this might be helpful to somebody, because I would just nag him and say, can you go to church? And you going to church this Sunday? And then God was like, stop, Keisha, you do you, get yourself right. And I got him. And that's what I did. Like, I focused on my relationship, but at the same time, I prayed and I talked to the Lord, and I let the Lord change his heart, right? And then all of a sudden, he was coming. He got involved in the church, and he was, you know, volunteering in the church. And so, again, this was, you know, when we first started out. But I think, like, as my primary advice is to put him first in everything, because you are going to have times and tribulations, but it's when you put him first that he'll help you through those times. He'll tell you what to do. He'll guide you. He'll tell you how to pray. And that's important, that when you cover each other in prayer. And if you don't put him first, you won't know to. You won't know that, okay, he has this habit, or he has this, or I have this. And I know that I can't change you, but I know who can. And so, again, that is my number one advice for longevity for in marriage, is to just really commit to him. And let your marriage speak to that and what he wants marriage to be.
Yeah, very true, honey. And I would say after that, communication and just opening yourself up, especially for most men, to different ideas and allowing her to lead in some things, such as, you know, bringing up the kids. She should have an important voice in that. You know, the household and the decorations in the house and how things look, the layout, just help out.
Yeah.
I mean, that really helps to ease tension, and it'll open your eyes to new and different things.
Yeah. And I think, too, going along those lines of being willing to, like, I know that it's not always about me. And I think you know that it's not always about you. And because we understand that, and like you said, we communicate so much. I mean, it's unreal, but it's good. Like, it's good because I know when he has an issue, or he knows when I have an issue, because we read our body language. We just know. And so, but again, that took work. And so, but again, communication is key. And you know, those 3 things, right? Those 3 things that help a marriage, or that you need to keep in check: communication, sex, and money. Seriously, when you get those 3 things together, when you put him first, you're not gonna have any problems. But you got to put those 3 things in perspective along with him.
Okay, so it's all gonna sound like stuff, you know, that you've heard before. I've already said communication. You gotta be willing to want to be better, you know, for your partner. You have to be willing to work on yourself. You got to be able to take criticism and see areas where you're not perfect, or, you know, as good as you think you are. Like, we all think we're pretty decent people, or, you know, whatever got it going on. But we're not perfect, and you have to be able to accept where you need to work on things. And once you can want to do that, it's not going to be easy. It doesn't make it any easier, but it's like a necessary evil. It's like, you know, working out or whatever. Like, exercise can be, you can hate going to do it, but once you're into it, it's like, all right, I'm good now.
I think one thing that stood out the most to me when we first got married was, I don't know what it was, like a spiritual, there's the revelation of like, oh my gosh, like the commitment just felt so different. And I literally, I remember being in a place where I was like, oh, people need to know how serious this is. Like people just out here getting married, and I see why now, relationships don't last sometimes because people don't really understand, or like they're not taking that part serious, the commitment and what it means. And also what I found to be beautiful is the same way that God gives us, we see him in that parent-child relationship. If you have a child or you mentor someone, you have your moments where you're like, this is probably how the Lord feels about me. I done told this girl or this boy how many times, so you see that. But even more so when you're married, and it's like a mirror for your relationship with God. And he puts you in that to help grow you. And that's the beauty and the struggle of a marriage when they say that is work. But if you lean into that process, and that doesn't feel good, and that's a part of the criticism, that's a part of having to look at yourself or have someone point something out in you, that is like, oh, okay, thanks for telling me. But it's, to me, again, it mirrors that mature relationship that you want to grow in with God. Because when you think about that journey, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. And actually, the deeper you go, it's just more layers that get peeled back. It's like, okay, we overcame that. Okay, then, well, let me show you that. That's something else that's in there. And you're like, all right, God. But it's like the same kind of in the marriage where you just keep growing. But if you lean into it, if you know that you're not fighting against the other person, like this is to help us get better, then that makes it beautiful. The journey becomes beautiful, even through those moments where it is work and it is tough. But if you've made that commitment, then you got to figure it out. So,
Well, for us, when we give advice and say, first of all, you have to have a relationship with Christ. Once you establish a relationship with Christ, then it's time for you to get together. And when you do, you put Christ in the middle of that relationship. If you do that, then you're going to have success. But you have to go to the second step. The second step is you have to now take yourself out of the equation. When you remove yourself from the equation, then you can better see the habits, idiosyncrasies, and thoughts of your partner and put yourself in their place. And you'll begin to think about them first instead of yourself. Because if self is in there, then self is always going to be in the way. Once you get that done, then you'll find out that things that you have with yourself aren't really that important, because you know that if your partner, your wife or your husband is satisfied and happy, you're going to be too. It's just, it falls in place. So that's what we would recommend if you want to stay together. Put Christ in the equation and keep self out of it. And yourself will be satisfied by doing that. It's surprising.
I think it starts with your commitment to wanting to be in it for the long haul, and being serious about that, and being introspective enough to understand what that means. You can't run from the first fight. You can't just walk away angry without communicating. So I guess what the biggest piece that is going to sound very cliche, it's communication.
Oh yes. Like he would always say when we're dating, he's like, yeah, all this is great. I mean, we've been dating for months, but I want us to get into our first real argument. And then I'm going to know if this is it or not. And I was like, why would you say that? And you would say that. And so needless to say, we've been in several of them. We're very highly opinionated people who communicate, sometimes over communicate. But I mean, I think it's good. So I think communication is key. I think it's really also important to be true to who you are. I don't think two halves make a whole. I think two wholes make a better whole, because you're not always going to be at 100%. Okay. So like if this day I'm bringing 30, I'm gonna need you to bring that 70 that day. And that's real. I mean, so I feel like you need to be true to you. know who you are to the best of your ability before you get married, so you can bring your full self into the relationship, and you're not trying to define yourself by this person, but you're already defined, so you're an asset.
Right. Don't don't
creme de la
don't
creme.
You don't want to look at your partner as somebody that completes you per se. It's somebody that is there to support you and to be your bedrock and your biggest cheerleader, your biggest fan. And sometimes they need to be your harshest critic, somebody that you can stand to be honest with in a respectful way.
Yeah.
In a respectful way. And sometimes when you get caught up in the heat of the moment, it's hard to maintain that. But the whole, at the end of the day, as long as you're committed to being with one another, being honest with one another, and are continually striving for that love, that companionship, that partnership. I think partnership's a big word that people kind of leave out of long-term relationships. It's a partner. This is your partner. It's not your
for life.
Right.
Not for this week and not next week. Like, you make that choice every day you wake up to be there for that person and to be with this person. And so, like, I choose you every day. And I feel like if you can't make that decision about the person you're in a relationship with, and you already know you're like half doing it, then I would say, that's not the person for you. Like, you got to be willing to sacrifice and commit and be with each other through the good, bad, the ugly, and the indifferent. So,
but yeah, definitely picking off of something she said. It's a choice. Every day being together has to be a choice, an active choice, every single day. The good days, the bad days, and the indifferent days. It's an active choice to stay together.
Yeah,
you got to be committed to that choice.
I found a good one.
Yeah. Just like from the moment I met her, she was getting all kind of awards and things from the school system, teacher of the year multiple times, all kind of degrees, she was winning for like 10 years straight, and I was still winning too, because I was there supporting her. But it took me maturing to realize it wasn't a competition and that my wife is me. Mm-hmm. So when she did well, I did well. And I was there in the support role, taking care of the house while she's at school, taking care of the kids while she's doing, the mentorship thing, just being there for her, lift her, help spread her message as far as the girls club, promoting her business, that sort of thing. So after I got over myself and got over the fact that, yeah, I'm a man, yeah, she's a woman, the old way is that, the male is supposed to be getting all these accolades and everything that she was getting. So I had to stay focused and, focus in my area, which was making games. And we actually ended up doing that together. We made some games together. Mm-hmm. And that really mended that, I guess, that tension that I was having with myself of not being in the spotlight. Mm-hmm.
That the biggest thing is, love is not just love. It's a process. You both have to give a little and take a little, because even though you're taking stuff out of it, the moment still stays, and you it grows when you become friends first, and then you already have God in the mix, and it just grows from there.
And then another thing that's important is that you have to be smart, especially in your younger years, smart enough to plan for your later years. Because if you get into your later years, and even though you've been married a long time, and you can't make it financially, you're in a sad place. Y'all not gonna be real happy. You may be together, but you're not gonna be real happy. So you have to make sure you got a good financial base and invest wisely. Make sure you got 401ks, IRAs, whatever the case may be. Because where we are right now, even after retirement, our standard of living hasn't changed. In fact, it's gotten better, quite frankly.